It's Friday, September 24th, 2021, and this is the Washington Times front page. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. The rift between President Biden and his progressive base has widened over the treatment of Haitian migrants on the southern U.S. border. Dave Boyer and Jeff Murdoch report the U.S. Special Envoy to Haiti, Daniel Foote, resigned in protest of the administration's inhumane deportations. Foote wrote in his resignation letter the administration's policy toward the Haitian migrants is deeply flawed, and deporting them was counterproductive. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki countered that Foote's ideas about promoting democracy in Haiti were harmful. Democrats and civil liberties groups are angry over images of Border Patrol agents on horseback chasing migrants and reports of Haitians sleeping under a bridge in Texas. The U.S. has flown more than 1,000 refugees back to Haiti in recent days. At the White House, U.S. efforts to form a new formal alliance of Pacific Rim democracies are set to take a step forward as leaders of the Quad powers gather for the first in-person summit of the strategic alignment. National Security Team leader Guy Taylor reports President Biden will host the leaders of India, Japan, and Australia as part of what is formerly known as the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. It's an ongoing effort to rally the most powerful democracies of the Pacific region into a more formal grouping to confront China's expanding economic and military influence on the world stage. The meeting comes just days after the president unveiled a separate new alliance with Britain and Australia, anchored by a deal to supply U.S. technology to Australia to power a new generation of nuclear submarines. In national news, the U.S. homicide rate is poised to take its biggest annual jump in 60 years as the FBI has compiled nationwide data. Emily Zanto reports an FBI report due next week is expected to show an increase in the national homicide rate for 2020 of nearly 29%. That's more than double the previous record increase, a 12.7% rise in 1968. According to early data obtained by the New York Times, the report will show approximately 21,500 homicides last year. That's about 5,000 more than 2019. The overall homicide rate, however, is still lower than it was in the 1990s. A reminder that you can find all these stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page. Don't have access to the Times yet? Visit WashingtonTimes.com/George and get 25% off your annual subscription. Pfizer and Moderna, makers of COVID-19 vaccines, have enjoyed Fasttrack status since the summer of 2020. That allows frequent interaction with regulators and real-time submission of data as the FDA deploys all its tools to cope with the pandemic. Tom Howe reports that means regulators saw data as it rolled in over the course of months instead of cramming in the midsummer for the Pfizer approval. The current situation of the pandemic is forcing drug makers and regulators to walk a fine line as they pivot from the warp speed approval of 3 vaccines to frenzied work on booster shots and vaccines for school-aged children. And finally, Maricopa County, Arizona's hand count audit of its 2020 election results confirmed that President Biden won the county's presidential election. Seth MacLachlan reports a report by the Cyber Ninjas accounting firm obtained by the Arizona Republic not only confirms Biden's win in Maricopa, but shows that former President Trump lost by an even wider margin in the county. The audit is the most prominent of the 2020 after-action reports and has been dogged by controversies, including the amount of time it has taken and the use of the Cyber Ninjas firm to lead the review. The small Florida-based group had no experience with election audits, and its CEO previously embraced the former president's false claims of a rigged election. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and follow us for free on all of your favorite podcast platforms. Just search Washington Times. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.